So in the last video, we talked about basically importing your photos from whatever shoot you just did. And now we're going to talk about how to edit those with some level of efficiency if you need to get the photos right out the door. Now, if you're looking to make like the most clean, precise edits or really artistic edits, this isn't exactly that. There's some more advanced processes you can go to. This is more like you want to get these photos out, you just shot it, you want to get it on social media so people can see it. Here's maybe how you go through doing it a little faster. So if we go into, once again, our Lightroom, these are what I'm left with. I have 42 photos from that initial 500. And what I'm going to do is go to each photo and I want to do a few things. One, I want to crop it in. I don't need a lot of this excess. This one is interesting here, so now I can see that. This one's pretty interesting there. I can see that. I could also go into here. Now, again, a Sony A1 has a 50 megapixel sensor, so that allows for a lot more cropping like this. But now this is fairly washed out, so I do want to adjust it. I could go to auto, like we've talked about before, and that's fine. It feels a little bit overdone. So I'm going to drop the exposure back, but I do like what it did with the highlights a little bit. And then for the blacks, I do want to kind of bring those out. Now, if I'm like, man, I'm getting the whole background kind of back, remember what we can always do is we can mask. All right, using the masking tool, I'm going to select my subject. Now, I could try it and see what Lightroom does to just automatically select the subject, and it did a terrible job. It selected this right here. We don't want that. So I'm going to say, no, you didn't do it right. Delete mask one. I'm going to actually zoom in a little bit on this person right here, and I am going to select using this object selection tool. And what I'm going to do is just brush over. My mouse is having connectivity issues, so let's hope this kind of works, but we'll try that. That was pretty good. All right, so now what I can do is I can zoom out and I can add a little bit more exposure here. So I'm going to just brighten her up. Not too much. I don't want to go crazy with it or anything like that, but I like that generally, just to brighten up a little bit. Then what is really cool about Lightroom is you can click this plus to make another mask, and you can say, I want to right click on the mask. I want to duplicate and invert mask. And this is why this is nice. If I duplicate and invert, then what I could do is just turn down the exposure ever so slightly. You don't want to do it too much because it'll look fake. Okay, but just a very slight adjustment. And in doing so, what you end up getting is a little bit of a distinction between the foreground and the background. So here's my original. Here's it with that adjustment. Now, again, if people looked at this image, their eye is immediately drawn to her because it's a brighter image now. So I'm going to sit with that. That's fine. This one's maybe a little bit more interesting. And then this one, it's pretty clear she's going to save it. So I don't actually want either of those. So now that I have gone through those, I'm going to exit those off. Okay, I don't want either of those. X that one. Here, this isn't bad. I can crop this in. I can get these people. I'm going to rotate it so the field is a bit more level. I used shortcut C there. I like this light. It's actually pretty good. But on this one, I'm going to zoom in. And notice it's kind of noisy because I shot at 2500. And when you crop in on an A1 sensor, you're losing a lot of the information, right? So as you crop in, it's going to have a little bit more noise because it's a higher megapixel sensor. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to actually use a little trick that's nice in Lightroom. And I'm going to denoise it. So I'm going to click denoise, and it's going to give me a little preview of what the denoised image will look like. You got to be careful on this because you'll see it here even at 50, percent or whatever, 50 out of 100. You can start to see they almost look a little bit like plasticky. And I would just say be careful of that. A little noise is not bad. You don't want too much plastic in there. So you just got to be careful of trying to kill too much noise there. Now you could manually reduce the noise and try that as well. But by reducing the noise, and this is before we've edited any colors or anything, we're just getting a little bit better image overall and just not quite so noisy. It's going to take a little bit of time depending on your computer and your GPU, especially. It kind of runs on that. but overall, it's not bad considering how much work it's doing to try to clear up the image. Now on this one, I don't need to do too many edits with it. I might just punch the exposure ever so slightly, make that a little bit brighter. I'm going to drop, maybe increase the contrast. Highlights, I can drop a tiny bit. And then whites, let's punch those, make it a little bit, feel a little bit brighter. But overall, I like this light. I think that looks good. That's a usable one. So when I'm going through, when I do these initial edits, now I actually star mine. So the first run through is X and Y to reject or accept. Now I star it. So this is a 5. I'm going to use this one in the roll. I also like this one. Now here's the case where I have 2 images and they're of basically the same moment. And I know the lighting here was basically the same. So instead of going through that whole process again, Lightroom makes it really easy because what I can do is right click this first image that I already edited, say, not edit in Photoshop. You can say copy edit settings here, and I can choose which ones to copy. In this case, these all look good. I'm happy with this. And then here I can paste the edit settings and boom. Okay, now we have it. And then if I want to, again, I can run through and do my denoising. So I could go down here and say noise reduction. Let's do the AI. I know 35 was good last time, so I'm going to go with that this time. And then it's going to generate that. Again, there's other ways you can do manual denoising too, which actually works pretty well. But this is totally fine. For my computer, it's fast enough that it's worth it not to have to kind of like play with all the manual sliders. And so I've really liked this feature for those of us who are doing sports photography at night or in low light conditions, and your camera lens is maybe not a $6,000 or $10,000 lens. All right, the last thing I'm going to do, and I'll do it on all of these, but I'm going to go down to enable lens correction, and I'm going to click that. And what it's going to do if you have a camera that is able to identify it is it's going to find the lens. So in this case, it's a Tamron 35 to 150, and it's actually going to change that. So you see this is the original, and then it's adding a nice little shift to that to kind of clean up a little bit of rounding that the lens got. So that's basically the process. The really nice thing is if you have edit settings and your light is consistent through all your pictures, you can copy your edit settings and then you can select as many pictures as you want. Like I think the lighting was probably fine here as well, but you could hold down Shift on your keyboard and select all of the photos in a line and then paste your edit settings. And I can do that here just to show you. And it's going to paste all of those edit settings. Now, just be aware if you just do paste, not paste edit settings down here, it will only paste to the first picture, not all of them. So little kind of weird side nuance of Lightroom. So that's about it for just now how to edit and kind of get through those bulk edits a little bit faster. So we'll have a little bit more in part 5 about kind of this process, but otherwise that's really how you go from the very beginnings of Lightroom all the way through bulk editing a whole bunch of pictures.